In the cozy confines of their living room, Adnan Abdul Fattah stood before a full-length mirror, the early sunlight streaming through the windows casting a halo around his thinning hair. He ran his fingers obsessively through his scalp, his expression a mixture of frustration and despair. Each pass of his hand seemed to underscore the reality he was trying to escape, the widening patches where hair once thrived. His shoulders slumped further with every stroke, and the faint murmurs of his lamentations filled the room. Across from him, Tigery Taylor sat cross-legged on the plush couch, a steaming cup of tea cradled in her hands. The rhythmic clink of her spoon against the cup's edge was the only other sound in the house. Her dark, wavy hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face that was a portrait of concern. Though she had grown accustomed to Adnan's preoccupation with his appearance, his recent fixation on his hair loss had taken on a relentless intensity. She watched him now, her brow furrowed with both weariness and sympathy. "Adnan," she called softly, her voice cutting through his murmured self-recriminations. He didn't respond immediately, instead tilting his head left and right to scrutinize his reflection from every possible angle. Finally, with a tone of quiet desperation, he spoke. "It's worse than yesterday. Worse than this morning." "Wait." He leaned closer to the mirror, his voice trembling. "I feel like my hairline is retreating. Do you think stress is speeding it up? Maybe I should try yoga or meditation." Tigery sighed deeply and set her cup down, folding her arms across her chest. "Your hair isn't retreating, Adnan. It's just changing." She attempted a reassuring smile, but it did little to soften the weight of her words. "Changing?" Adnan turned to her, his eyes wide and incredulous. "This isn't change, Tigery. This is a crisis. A disaster. Do you know what happens to reality TV celebrities who lose their looks? They're forgotten. Replaced by younger, more attractive versions of themselves." Tigery leaned back against the sofa, her lips pressing into a thin line. One of the qualities that had drawn her to Adnan initially was his fiery passion, an energy that had once felt boundless and inspiring. Yet moments like these, when that same intensity veered into melodrama, left her emotionally drained. "You're being ridiculous," she said gently but firmly. "People love you because you're genuine, funny, and kind. None of that has anything to do with your hair." Adnan crossed his arms and turned back to the mirror, his jaw tightening. "That's easy for you to say. You're beautiful, Tigery. No one's replacing you. But me? My hair is part of my brand. Without it, what am I?" Tigery's patience began to fray. She rose from the couch, walking over to stand beside him. Gently, she placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're still you, Adnan. The man who makes people laugh, who has a story for every situation, and who's built a career on being relatable. You don't need perfect hair to be loved." Adnan met her gaze in the mirror, his expression softening just a fraction. For a moment, he seemed to absorb her words, the weight of his anxiety lifting ever so slightly. Then, with a small, self-deprecating smile, he said, "Maybe I should start wearing hats." Tigery chuckled and gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Do whatever makes you feel good. Just remember, hair or no hair, you're still the man I fell in love with." As the sunlight shifted, bathing them both in a warm glow, Adnan let out a deep breath. Perhaps his hairline wasn't the catastrophe he'd built it up to be. And perhaps, just perhaps, he could learn to see himself through Tigery's eyes. Adnan stared into the mirror, a hollow laugh escaping his lips. It was a laugh devoid of humor, tinged with self-reproach. "It's simple for you to say," he muttered, addressing his reflection. "You're flawless. Meanwhile, I look like a middle-aged man who's one bad day away from running a cheap kebab shop." Tigerlily, who had been reclining on the sofa, rose and walked toward him. Her movements were deliberate, her expression calm yet resolute. She placed a steady hand on his shoulder, grounding him. "Hear me out," she said quietly. "You're not falling apart. You're just facing something that millions of people go through. And guess what? There are solutions. Adnan's expression remained doubtful as he continued to gaze into the mirror. Solutions? What's next? Miracle serums for hair growth? Snake oil? No, Tigerlily replied firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. I'm talking about real, practical options. I've been doing some research, and I had a conversation with Dr. Patel. He's a plastic surgeon who specializes in non-invasive techniques, things like hair transplants, to help people feel like themselves again. Adnan's jaw dropped as he turned to face her. A plastic surgeon? Tigerlily, I'm not trying to turn into a mannequin. I don't need a whole new face. I just want my old hair back. She shook her head, a soft chuckle escaping despite the seriousness of the conversation. Adnan, nobody is suggesting you transform into someone unrecognizable. The goal isn't to create a new you. It's about small, subtle changes, just enough to make you feel like yourself again. The hair transplant is straightforward, and there are other minor improvements that can boost your confidence. Nothing extreme. His gaze shifted back to the mirror. The lines on his face seemed deeper now, the thinning patches on his scalp more pronounced. I don't know, he said after a pause. Surgery? Isn't that too much? Tigerlily's tone softened, but her conviction remained unshaken. It's not about changing who you are, Adnan. It's about restoring your confidence, your sense of self. And you won't have to go through it alone. I'll be with you every step of the way. But only if this is what you want. For a long moment, Adnan remained silent. He studied his reflection, the creases on his face, the tired look in his eyes, the undeniable signs of aging that felt like a betrayal. Finally, he exhaled and turned to her. All right, he murmured, barely above a whisper. Let's do it. The following week, Adnan and Tigerlily found themselves in Dr. Patel's pristine, modern office. The walls were adorned with certificates and framed photos of patients whose transformations seemed almost too good to be true. The atmosphere was clinical yet welcoming, a space designed to inspire trust. Dr. Patel greeted them with a warm smile and a reassuring demeanor, walking them through the procedure with clarity and patience. Adnan listened intently, occasionally glancing at Tigerlily for reassurance. Her presence, steady and unwavering, gave him the courage he needed. As the consultation concluded and the plans were set, Adnan felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time, hope. For the first time in years, the man in the mirror didn't feel like a stranger. Instead, he saw a glimpse of the person he once was, and the person he could be again. Adnan shifted uneasily in his chair, fidgeting with the zipper of his jacket. He glanced around the room, his nervous energy evident. The door opened, and Dr. Patel entered, his warm smile lighting up the room. His presence immediately put everyone at ease. It's a pleasure to meet you both, Mr. Abdul Fata and Mrs. Taylor, Dr. Patel said, his tone calm and reassuring. Let's discuss how we can help you. Adnan, trying to mask his nervousness, launched into a barrage of self-deprecating remarks. Well, Doc, a good place to start would be figuring out how to stop my hair from going bad faster than a plate of shawarma at a family dinner. Dr. Patel chuckled, his expertise evident in his demeanor. You're in the right place. Hair transplant procedures have advanced significantly, and the results can look very natural. We can restore your hairline and density while preserving your unique features. Tigerlily, seated next to Adnan, chimed in with a playful smile. How about a few minor face enhancements too? Just to freshen things up a bit. Adnan shot her a look, equal parts amused and exasperated. Freshen me up like a wilting salad? What am I, lunch? Dr. Patel laughed again, his tone soothing. It's all about balance. Our goal is to enhance what you already have, not change who you are. You'd be surprised how small adjustments can make a big difference in confidence. Adnan nodded, his anxiety beginning to subside. All right, document. Let's do this. Just promise me I won't end up looking like one of those reality stars with faces made of silicone. Dr. Patel's smile widened. I promise. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of consultations, surgeries, and recovery.